Jaya Radha Madhuma Kunya Bihari Jaya Radha Madhuma Kunya Bihari Madhura Kunya Vihari Gopi Jana Manava Kiri Varadhari Gopi Janavalabha Iri Badachari Yasuranandana Brajajana Ranjana Yasuranandana Brajajana Ranjana Jamuna Tira Manachanti Yamuna Tira Manachanti Yamuna Tira Jaya Radha Madhura Kunya Bihari Jaya Radha Madhura Kunya Bihari Gopi Jana Badaba Kiri Vadadhari Gopi Jana Balaba Kiri Vadadhari Yasodhanandana Brajajana Ranjana Yasodhanandana Brajajana Ranjana Jamuna Tira Manachari Yamuna Tira Vanachanti Jairanhu Madhuva Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhura Kunya Bihari Jai Om Vishnu Pad Paramahansa Paravidikacharya also Tada Sitashi Shimad His Divine Grace Abhaya Chalanada Bhaktivedanta Goswami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai ISKCON Founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai Anantakoti Vaishnav Vrinda Ki Jai Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai Prem Se Kaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shidweta Gadadha Shiva Siddhi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Gijai Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopi Gopinath Shyama Kunda Radha Kunda Giri Govardhan Ki Jai Vrindavanam Ki Jai Mathuram Ki Jai Jagadada Swami Ki Jai Yamudamai Ki Jai Shrimati Lasi Devi Ki Jai Samveda Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai Gaur Premananda Hari Hari Bol. All glory is the assembled devotees. All glory is the assembled devotees. All glory is the assembled devotees. All glory is to Sri Guru and Gauranga Shri Prabhupada Ki Jai. Namam Vishnupadaya Krishna Prastaya Bhutale Srimati Bhaktivedanta Swami Namani Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pacharni Nivashesha Shunyavati Paschatya Deja Tarni. Okay, before class, I just want to mention today's Rukmini Dwadasi, the commemoration or celebration of Rukmini Devi's appearance day. And actually, the breakfast doesn't start till about 9:38 in the morning. So you can eat, but no grains until 9:38 in the morning. So we're going to continue with the Bhagavatam. Reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, 10th Canto, 62nd chapter, text 11. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Sa Tatra Tam Apashyante Kvasi Kanteti Vadini Sakinam Maja Utastau Avivala Pradidita Vrisham Satatratam Apashanti Kvasi Kanteti Vadini Sakinam Maja Utastau Vivala Vridita Vrisham Satatratam Apashanti Kvasi Kanteti Vadini Sakinam Maja Utastau Vivola Vridita Vrisham Satatratam Apashanti Kvasi Kanteti Vadini Sakinam Maja Utastau Vivala Vridita Vrisham. Okay. bugs again. Anyway. All right. Sa, she, tatra, there, in her dream. Tam, him. Apashanti, not seen. Va, where. Ase, are you. Kanja, my lover. Iti, thus. Vadini, speaking. Sakinam, of her girlfriends. Majay, in the mist. Utastau, arose. Vivvala, disturbed. Vridita, embarrassed. Brisham, greatly. Translation, losing sight of him in her dream. Usha suddenly sat up in the midst of her girlfriends, crying out, "Where are you, my lover?" She was greatly disturbed and embarrassed. You can repeat. Losing sight of him in her dream. Usha suddenly sat up in the midst of her girlfriends, crying out, "Where are you, my lover?" She was greatly disturbed and embarrassed. So purport by the followers of His Divine Grace, Srila Prabhupada. Coming to her senses and remembering that she was surrounded by her girlfriends, Usha was naturally very embarrassed to have cried out in that way. At the same time, she was disturbed by attachment to the beloved man who had appeared in her dream. So, would be the commentary of Jiva Goswami. She was in great pain because of separation, or overcome with fatigue after enjoying with him. Then she became embarrassed. Harivangsha describes her condition. Sa swapne ramitatina stri bhavam chapilam bida shanitaka parudati sa saivo tita nishi. Enjoying with him in a dream, she became overcome with womanly emotions. With red complexion, she wept and suddenly rose out of bed in the night. It is understood that Aniruddha directly came to her. This was arranged by Chitralekha, as will be explained later. This and his later actions occurred from a display of human-like pastimes. Again, verse. Satatratam apashyanti Vasikante divadini sakinam maja utastao vivala vridditabrisham. So omigana timbadandasha gananjana shalakaya chakshur unmeditam yena tasmai shigurave namaha. So this is a very romantic section of the Srimad Bhagavatam, the marriage of Usha and Aniruddha. So one may question, why do we have this love affair in the middle of Krishna's pastimes? You know, there's really love and relationship that appears, well, an unmarried relationship eventually here. So what is happening? Well, first of all, we have to understand who the personalities are. Of course, you have Aniruddha, who is part of the Chaturvyuha expansion of the Supreme Personality of God. It's described, he also represents the mind, or is the presiding deity of the mind. Chaturvyuha means Vasudeva, Sankarshan, Prajuna, and Aniruddha. So, you know, there's Krishna, Balaram, Prajuna, and Aniruddha. And so it's not just an ordinary mortal that she's hankering after. And she's not an ordinary person. I mean, I don't know whether she's Shakti Tattva or Jiva Tattva, but in any case, she's having a conjugal relationship with the Supreme Personality of God, which is transcendental, as we've read before about the gopis' transcendental relationships with Krishna, and also Rukmini's transcendental relationship with Krishna, Satyabhama's transcendental relationship with Krishna. It's not on the mundane platform, although it appears to be like that. It appears, there's simply what we would consider to be some of the external symptoms or manifestation, that's symptoms, and symptoms too, of manifestations of, kissing and everything like that we see in this material world. But these particular interactions are not being performed with material bodies. Certainly Aniruddha doesn't have a material body. And to engage in conjugal loving affairs with Aniruddha, one would not have a material body to be able to do that. So that's the first point I wanted to make. Another point I think is even more important is that her mood, anyway, it's springtime and bug time. So her mood of intense feelings of separation from Aniruddha, as pointed out by the acharyas here, and as we know from the philosophy of Krishna consciousness, dealing with vipralamba, or intense mood of separation, means that she's actually with Aniruddha, even in her dream, even before Chitralekha comes and does her magic thing. Sometimes it's described by the acharyas that Chitralekha is considered to be like an expansion of Yogamaya. Interesting. And Yogamaya ranges for the pastimes of Radha and Krishna, or the pastimes of Krishna's expansions with his particular consorts. So Chitralekha is actually manifestation of Yogamaya, or expansion of Yogamaya, according to the acharyas. And even before Chitralekha brings Aniruddha to be before Usha, Usha is already with Aniruddha, because she's feeling separation. And this feeling of separation is considered to be the highest ecstasy in relationship with the Supreme Personality of God. And of course, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is teaching this and experiencing this at the same time. So just recently, we were giving some lectures on Lord Rama's pastimes. And Lord Rama's pastimes are pastimes of intense separation. Actually, Krishna's pastimes, too, are pastimes of intense separation. And so from the external point of view, because this is Ram Navami, which occurred sometime before, but from the external point of view, Lord Ram's pastimes, or the Ramayana, is a tragedy. If you look at it from an external point of view, because it's continual separation, not only between Sita and Ram, but between Dasarath and Ram, between Ram and Lakshman, and we're going to mention some of these stories in a second, between Ram and Hanuman, and what's going on here? Just like we hear in this particular story, what's going on? She's suffering so much, but she's not suffering. Even her crying and lamenting that her dream broke, and she's no longer having this relationship with Aniruddha, which in fact was a real relationship, even though it was in a dream. That in itself is a symptom of ecstasy because it's dealing with the Lord and his consort. So even the lamentation, of course, material lamentation when we're separated, of course, as a sannyasi, I can't say beloved. I can say Krishna is beloved. Krishna is the beloved. Lord Chaitanya is the beloved. Srila Prabhupada is the beloved. Of course, usually we don't use that word for dealing with ourselves in a spiritual context, but he's our focus of devotion. So when we feel separation from these personalities, it can be considered sometimes to be miserable, but it's ecstatic. How to explain that to a conditioned soul? That's very, very difficult. How can misery be the greatest ecstasy? Isn't it? I mean, it's just so hard to understand. So anyways, getting back to Lord Ram's pastimes, which I love to talk about. If you read the Ramayana, you'll see that there's one painful episode after another. For example, even when Ram is he just becomes a teenager, basically. He is asked by Viswamitra Muni to go to the forest to help Viswamitra Muni defeat the demons, Marich and Sabahu. And so Dasarath at that time he's feeling impending separation, which is actually part of the whole progress. You know, there's impending separation, there's actual separation, there's a Purvarag before meeting again. I mean, it's a whole system of meeting, then experiencing impending separation, then actual separation, and then before meeting again, Purvarag, all these different things that occur in a cycle. So anyway, Dasarath is experiencing great pain because he's going to have to send Ram away. And he's very reluctant to abide by the orders of Viswamitra Muni, who's requesting Ram. And he's in great pain. And he says, I'll go myself, I'll send my army, anything. But please don't take Ram. And Viswamitra Muni says to him, just increasing the pain. He says to him, I can see that all of your ancestors kept their words, but you're the first one in your whole dynasty. Of course, this is the Surya dynasty, who has broken his word, and he gets ready to storm off, and Dasarath has more anxiety. So this anxiety in relationship to Krishna, in relationship to Ram, in relationship to Krishna's pure devotees, this is purifying. It's a spiritual emotion. Whereas anxiety in this material world is simply, it's not a spiritual emotion, but it's simply contaminating. It keeps you from being focused on the real purpose of life. Like if you have anxiety about your body, you have anxiety about your schoolwork, whatever. It takes away your focus. But we're meant to be in anxiety. Actually, the pure devotees, they're in anxiety about the plight of the conditioned souls. Krishna is actually in anxiety about the plight of each and every one of us. So these are spiritual